We already have a question. Where should we look for this book? Amazon, if you're looking for the Fierce book. Amazon would be the place I would send you. I'm looking for my copy. I know it's not far. There's a white cover version. Susan Scott is the author of the book. Susan Scott. There's an updated version that's come out since. So that would be what I would have you look for. Tactic 11, so they tell me. Is that where we are at? God, I hope so. All right, so that is starting on page 223 for those of you playing along at home out of the Shift book. It's great to see everybody. Actually, you know what? I want to start with Daily Covey quote. This is such a powerful book. You can see that. Daily Reflections for Highly Effective People. We actually go over this with our staff every single morning. We do a daily stand-up, and it's a great thing. Great book to just get thought process going. I just want to read what today's was, because it's very poignant for what we're going through. Reactive people focus on circumstances over which they have no control. The negative energy generated by that focus, combined with neglect in areas they could do something about, cause their circle of influence to shrink. Proactive people focus their efforts on things that they can do something about. The nature of their energy is positive, enlarging, and magnifying, causing their circle of influence to increase. We've got a choice when we wake up in the morning. Am I going to focus my energy on things I can do something about, or am I going to focus my energy on things I can't do anything about? One of those is going to be kind of a positive feedback loop, and one of those is going to be a negative, destructive feedback loop. And I think what we're going through right now is a prime time to really keep that top of mind aware. It's so easy to get sucked into the news of the day and begin to wring our hands and woe is me, and maybe get angry at what's going on, and maybe the opposite political party you want to blame for, or just like, ah. And in real estate, what we can be actively looking for is what we like to call the market of the moment. Okay, how you were doing business 6 weeks ago is different than how we're doing it today, and different than what it's going to be in 6 weeks. And what we can do, what we choose to follow, is let's be actively looking for that market of the moment that we can have an effect in. Now, in the book, Gary's talking about the coming shift in 2008, 2009. That's what he's talking about in the book. And the focus is predominantly around short sales, foreclosures, and REOs. Short sales, foreclosures, and REOs. I would argue we're probably going to see a slightly different version of market of the moment. Immediately, we've seen it in some areas where the market of the moment is buyers who are willing to buy sight unseen. All of a sudden, that buyer is a premium. Yes? Bobblehead, if you're hearing me. Love it. Yeah, that's a yes. Now, we also have market of the moment of sellers who are willing to put their house on the market, knowing that we're taking proper protocol when we do take somebody through the home, or we do a Matterport type product, virtual tour, that kind of a thing. What we're going to see coming out of this as a market of the moment is still a little bit unknown. It's still a little bit unknown. What I can promise you is this. If you stop working, if you stop engaging, you will miss it. Those that take advantage of the market of the moment are those that are engaged in the current market, because they begin to see the signs and opportunities. They begin to see those things that say, oh, wait a minute, we can't do it this way, but we can do it that way. Or these buyers went away, but look who just showed up. And now what if I change my message to the world saying, hey, tell me about who wants to invest in real estate right now? Because maybe it becomes an investor market. Maybe it's our first-time home buyers that really become that base group that we're looking for. Builders who are willing to sell at a discount could become a market of the moment. Each one of these things are things that could happen. I would be willing to bet we're still in a guessing phase based on the timeliness of this. Again, this is not organically hitting the real estate market, right? This is happening in the economy, and the waves of impact are going to hit the real estate market coming kind of through us. So what that market of the moment is still a little bit nebulous to us. I will promise you it's probably going to be affected by what lending is available and what restrictions happen in the mortgage market. So whoever your smartest, best, most professional local mortgage person is that's really on top of what's going on, that's a person you want to be really closely connected to right now, right? If your buyers suddenly can no longer buy, you've got to be able to figure out, well, who can, right? One of our lenders up here has told us that effectively the jumbo loan programs in the state of Maine have already dried up. So our higher end properties automatically have to be nearly cash, 800 to $1 million plus is going to have to be almost a cash purchase, or so much cash down that the borrowed amount from the bank is significantly less than the jumbo loan products. But this is also where our creative financing comes in. We've covered that here, right? What if I do a seller second, right? So I could put $500,000 down, I could get a $300,000 loan, and the seller could keep a $200,000 second position note. And now all of a sudden I've got a purchase. So now let's take a look at that. Now my market of the moment is a seller who's willing to owner finance, a seller who has equity position, who's motivated, right? Like that's what that's going to look like. And a buyer who has significant cash down, as opposed to looking to maximize the amount they can finance. A lot of our higher end homes being sold were kind of under doctor loans, right? They were actually fairly highly leveraged for somebody who just landed that great job, but doesn't yet have the savings to kind of align with that level of purchase. So we need to keep engaged in the market, and we need to keep our foot on, or our finger rather, on the pulse of where things are moving, for us to be able to really to discern what does that next market of the moment look like. Walk you through this cycle real quick on page 226, and then we'll open it up for some discussion. Gary kind of puts it this way: market shifts, so less buyers and more sellers, which moves to average home price dropping, right? Which then moves to sellers get upside down and short sales and defaults, which then leads to increased foreclosures. REOs begin to hit the market. Average home prices fall further because they're now competing with distressed properties, REOs. More sellers get upside down. Foreclosures continue to increase. More REOs hit the market, okay? Now, what we saw 12 years ago was that exact cycle. Any seller that was a retail seller moved off, got out of the market. If they could wait selling, they waited, right? Because they didn't want to sell their house effectively at a distressed price, even though their home wasn't distressed. So it was only the highly motivated seller that wasn't distressed that was on the market, because they had to compete with foreclosed properties and short sales. So that's a glimpse of what it could look like. I know many of these faces, I'm just looking at some of the faces here. I know a bunch of you are in the greater Boston market. That's been a very frothy market. We've talked about these on this calls. You could lose half of your buyers right now and still be getting multiple offers on every listing. So depending on your exact market and depending on how extreme this goes, will depend on what your market of the moment shows up as. I want to encourage some people to come off of mute, and let's start with some questions here. Well, not all at once. Here's a couple of things.
I actually want to ask a question. I do have a question.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was trying to get in the market for the bank-owned properties, and I was trying to do the exploration, how to get in touch and how to get in a distribution list. Yep. And I never was able to get clear answer. I received like zillions of kind of emails after my movements and that position from the weird resources, and they want me to get into some kind of webinar, how to sell these properties. And it was, I log in once, and it was some kind of bizarre guy on the other side screaming like a crazy. So I never actually repeat my attempt. But we do have distressed properties still. Yep. And I think it's a great way to sell. And I work as a buyer agent many times, so I know how to serve it as a seller agent. I just never understand how to get in this distribution list with the banks and receive this property as a listing agent.
Yep. So a couple of things. It is fairly limited per area in terms of listings, say like HUD homes, that kind of a thing. And that's after the government's already taken it back and we're putting them back on the market. The best place I can direct you in terms of that specific thing would be to talk to people at your local banks. And they probably don't have a bunch of distressed properties right now. They probably don't have a bunch of pre-foreclosure now. But if we get into double digit, 10 to 20% unemployment, they're going to have a bunch of people who cannot afford to keep their homes. And if you have the relationship with the asset managers in your local lending institutions, you may find that some of those opportunities start coming your way. So I would start local on that and see where it goes from there. Yes, cash offer to Cambridge Townhouse and lost to another aggressive cash buyer. Exactly. So we're seeing that here too. The other thing I would say is this. I have an agent of ours who reached out to me over the weekend. 4 deals under contract, 3 fell apart. And I said, wow, Corona. Yeah, Corona. And he said, no. He said, skill. I'm like, huh? Understand that your skill set has to continue to increase as the market shifts. You have to get better at having conversations with people that you haven't had for a very long time, if ever, right? Like, we've got to better prepare them. We've got to better prepare our sellers for buyers having a little more negotiating strategy coming down the pipe. And we've got to prepare our buyers for some of the hiccups that could be happening on the lending side, right? If you have a borderline buyer right now who's super motivated, I got to tell you, man, I'd be doing everything I can to get them into a house today, because I think it will be harder for them to qualify 90 days from now. Now, that's not factual. That's just my 15 years of real estate experience going, yeah, I've seen what happens when this pendulum swings. We were actively swinging towards looser and looser lending guidelines. Understand, we're now aggressively swinging towards tighter guidelines, right? Things get volatile. Banks don't want to loan as much money because it's riskier, and they do not feel like they can take on the risk. What does that mean? That means your 640 buyer credit score now might need to be 680 or 740. Or they need to pay, right? They need to pay to buy down the rate.
Brad,
go ahead.
Brad, you mentioned cozying up to asset managers locally.
Yep.
Any suggestions on how to do that? Because I would imagine that they might not be as cozy as we'd like them to be.
Sure. I have all of my accounts at one bank. I would start at that bank. I would ask the branch manager, who's somebody that I know. And of course, today I've got to do it at the drive up, right? I can't walk into the bank and sit down at their desk. So I'd be asking what's the best number to reach them at. I'd like to have a conversation about this. That I'd like to be a resource for them if this was to happen. And it's tough. I mean, these banks are already immediately getting forbearance requests.
Yeah.
I just listened to an article that one of the largest servicers had 80,000 requests. Immediately, like month one, 80,000 requests for forbearance. So there's no way that your local banks aren't experiencing that as well. So this should be a timely request to have these conversations going. I'd start where you already do business or where you already have some sort of personal connection, maybe from a BNI group or Rotary or something like that, working with the local banker. How do you get people into house if inventory is limited? How do you get people into a house if inventory is limited? Well, first off, I think it's an expectation. This is from Janet. I think we've got to set expectations just like in any market. We've got to set expectations with our buyers, right? If you still have a really limited amount of inventory and virtual is a big part of our toolbox now in terms of how we're going to tour it, we've got to set their expectation that stuff can still be flying off the market quickly based off a virtual tour. So, and here's the thing, I don't want you to, we're not trying to apply pressure to get somebody to do something they're not comfortable with. What we're trying to do is paint a picture of the current market, make sure they understand that, and then ultimately leaving it up to them as to how they're going to engage in that market. So I'll give you an example. If I'm a buyer in the greater Boston market a year ago, and I'm looking for a deal and I want to put in offers under asking price, as an agent, I'd be educating them going, well, we might as well save our time because that's not going to happen. Your deals in this market right now is how little can we go over asking price? That's what a deal is in today's market, right? So our buyers might be coming in this going, well, hey, the things must suddenly be in my favor. Can I make offers 20, 25% under asking price? No, that's not the market we're in, right? So educating them on what market we're actually in matters. And we need to do it. This is probably the part where most agents drop the ball. In each of these expectation conversations, your credibility will be at its highest when you have that conversation without the issue actually being at hand. In other words, if I have an expectation conversation about what's going to happen with my seller in terms of requests on inspection contingencies, if I have that conversation when I'm listing the house and then I remind them about that conversation before we ever have the inspection, then when the buyer comes and is asking for a bunch of stuff, it's kind of, I told you, like I told you this was coming, right? This isn't me trying to talk you into stuff now to try to keep the deal together suddenly, right? This is me. I have prepared you for what is coming. And now you know, and now you're not blindsided by it. You knew it when we listed the property. You knew it when we accepted the offer, and now we're living in it. So for an agent to maintain their credibility, we need to be proactive as much as possible in our conversations about the things that could be coming, right? I would in most of our markets right now, I would be preparing our sellers that are under contract, that the buyers will now feel like they have more strength. And if they ask for something, we may need to do it unless we're sitting on a valid backup offer. So if suddenly somebody wants, instead of wanting some GFI outlets replaced, they want a furnace replaced, it may be in the seller's best interest to replace the damn furnace and say, thank you, sir, can I have another? Because when I come back on the market, if I've got to come back on the market and do a $20,000 price reduction, they're actually worse off than they would have been had we just replaced the furnace with the buyer we were currently dancing with. So I would share with all of my sellers right now. It's like, hey, just so you know, this is some of the stuff we're beginning to see. I think I shared with this group the other day. We had somebody who it was like $1 million or 1.1 under contract. And then the person said, hey, not for nothing, we're walking unless we can do it for, 900,000. You can share that story with the seller right now just to prepare them for volatility can show up like this. We'll deal with it in the moment, but I'm telling you, sometimes I may be recommending that we keep that deal together however we can. Again, I maintain more credibility if I've had that conversation way in advance as opposed to in the moment, right? Because in the moment, if I've never talked about it, the seller's thinking, oh, she just wants her commission. No, that's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because you hired me to sell your house. And I'm trying to give you the best possible information I can. Are others having, I'm having trouble hearing some of what the stuff you're missing on what Brad's saying isn't worthwhile. Yeah, if you miss something from me, it was the stuff you didn't want to hear anyway. Hold on one second. Test. Any better? Can you hear me? How about a bobblehead? Yes? All right. If anybody
I think
has
we have some bandwidth issues, but the recommendation that I've been told many times is that if you have other devices that you're using around you, please shut your Wi-Fi off so that way you have the most Wi-Fi with the Zoom call here and it'll speed up your connection.
Gotcha. Well, I'm hardwired, baby. I'm hardwired. So here we go. Julia had a question. If I'm working on an offer for bank-owned property, do you have any creative tips on making the offer attractive to a bank for acceptance? Ooh, end of month for a bank matters. End of quarter for a month matters. So when you can get offers in before those deadlines, or when you can close before those deadlines, those tend to matter for a bank. They look at stuff monthly, they look at stuff quarterly. So we just ended the first quarter, right? But if we look at that, for this month, if you had a buyer who could put a house under contract and close in this month, that would matter. As we get closer to the end of the second quarter, anything you can do to get that stuff off a bank's books before the quarter closes can be a benefit. Also know it's a banker sitting somewhere. This isn't a homeowner who's got a bunch of tools in the garage who's going to go fix something. Everything I ask them to do is a frickin' headache. So just keep that piece in mind and keep it as simple as possible for the bank. They might even take less if you make it super simple. Hope that helps. I've heard from other agents that you need a fairly large cash fund to be a listing agent for REO properties. What's your thoughts on this? Depends on the bank, on that aspect of it. Some banks have asset management being held by one team and the actual sales of the property being done by different people. In some cases, it's both. So in other words, I might be the person who's going in, turning the systems of the home back on so that it can be showed, so it can be inspected, and that's all coming out of my pocket as the agent, and then I've got to bill the bank, and the bank's got to pay me back. In other cases, the bank's got some other company that's handling that, and they've just hired me to work on the selling of the property. So yes, that can become an issue. And I will say that in the last downturn, we watched agents doing a lot of business slowly going broke because the banks weren't super motivated to pay them. They could be sitting on 60, 90 days worth of invoices out to banks that were thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And of course, the delays on the closings and all that kind of stuff, delays on getting paid, and the banks kind of, when you get into a really hot REO market, the bank knows they're the only dance in town. So if you complain about it, it's like, all right, I'll go to any one of the other 24 faces on this call, right? So making sure that you're wired up to be able to actually service at the level the bank needs to, and just have a clear expectation. If a property needs to be rekeyed because we just did cash for keys and kicked somebody out, are you paying for that? Or is somebody else paying for that? Are all banks on a fiscal year? I think it depends on the bank. I don't think there's necessarily a blanket statement on the fiscal year, but the month-to-month thing did seem to matter a lot when we went through this before. What was your most interesting deal during the last recession? How much time will we have? It's any number. I mean, it's, you know, we had stuff where to keep financing together as the financing windows were closing, I was literally putting soffits on a house because the bank said, nope, we're not funding this without the soffits being installed. I'm like, I own a ladder, I own a hammer, I own like, here we go. And I spent freaking 2 days putting soffits on a house as a freaking agent to get the house to close, right? You know, we had one, again, it's the punchline to that question really is this: the better the financial people you're working with, the more likely you're going to have options to be able to execute with your different buyers, okay? The better in tune you are with the lenders on your listing deals, the better you're going to know if there's a problem, okay? And just know, like, you could have people who are, you got the squeaky clean letter and all that stuff, and you put them under contract, and then the bank can go, we're not funding that loan anymore that way. It needs to change. And that may be a call for cash in terms of seller contributions, seller needing to buy down the rate, you know, a couple of those creative financing things we've talked about before. You know, just understand that there's a bunch of stuff that each of you has never negotiated in a real estate transaction before, that you're now going to have to open up that compartment in your brain and go, oh, that's negotiable. Yeah, that's negotiable. In the state of Maine, you don't actually have to put money down. I see Rich Mead on the call. We don't actually have to put down a security deposit or earnest money or anything like that. We don't have to, right? There has to be real value. Well, real value in the state of Maine can be the love from a father to his daughter. That's of real value. So we aren't required to do that. We can do 100% owner finance and have that still actually be a purchase. That's a deal I did, you know? I mean, it's the amount of things that we're going to have to get creative with is probably going to be the biggest eye opener for a lot of people, right? I was just reminded of that the other day when we were going through some of this stuff, the non-owner occupant co-signing, right? You know, Jim and Sally don't have everything they need to be able to buy now because the financing window shut on them. But if mom and dad co-sign with them, even though they're not living in the house, they can still buy the property. Then mom or dad are like, yeah, we'll do that. In the same way I do it for a car, I'll do it on the house, right? So you'll start to see more and more stuff like that. Other questions? We got a minute left. How have we done so far, Jen?
Doing really great today. I see a question over here. Oh, just on my screen. Actually, not a question, just a comment saying that international clients are having a harder time with getting pre-approvals as banks are getting more stringent with portfolio loans. And that's a great point to make. So thank you for that. Keep in mind that a portfolio loan just means the banks actually, you all have your money deposited at a bank. A portfolio loan is the bank saying, hey, we're going to take our deposit money and loan it out. We're not going to take Fed money, write a loan, and then turn around and sell that loan to the open market. We're actually going to take the money we have from our depositors and borrow that money out to loan that money out to people. They are way more conservative with those loans because it's their freaking money, right? They're not doing it just for a service fee. Absolutely. So just to close this up, I think with the last comment here, we are going to be launching Fierce Conversations, which is our next regional series, training series, and that's going to be starting April 20th with Brad. It'll be a 2-week series, same time, same place. We'll be sending out marketing information and materials as far as the Zoom link. Yet we'd love to see all of you come back and join us for Fierce Conversations. It's all about the relationship. And so that's what this Fierce Conversations is really going to talk about. And I'm excited for that series to start. Anything you want to end with, Brad?
You know, somebody had posted, you know, what other stuff should we be reading outside of Shift? Now is the time to just be sharpening your saw in general. I would be having robust conversations with agents whose opinions and experience I trust. I'm doing that with our own agents. I'm doing that with our own ALC, right? I'm learning from them. They're learning from me. Understand how much of a resource you can be for each other without even grabbing a book off the shelf. So as you start getting into sticky situations on deals or things that start to feel like roadblocks with a particular client, reach out, talk to people. You'd be surprised the amount of creativity you could find before you even leave the agents in your own office, right? And people are here to help. People are here to help. So I thank you all. This has been a lot of fun. You guys have one more Shift conversation tomorrow, and it's a really important one. Bulletproofing your transaction. We talked about it a week or so ago. You know, you definitely want to engage on that, and then I'll see you in about a week or so for the Fierce Conversations. Bye.